Welcome to Voice of San Diego at Home. It is July 6th, 2020. July 6th, 2020. It is a couple days after the 4th of July. Hope you all had a great weekend. I know it was a little weird around here as well. I had some, I don't know if you guys all had this, but it was a great time. We just decided to pretend that we were having a party at home and turned into feeling like a party. It was nice just to kind of relax, not have something pressing to do or drive around or whatever. And it was just nice to be with family. Although I will say the worst part about this 4th of July, and it wasn't all the people from Arizona, it wasn't all the, not being able to go party. It was the fireworks. The people that were shooting off fireworks, especially the ones that just go, I don't know what they are, the quarter sticks or something that just go boom. They're just boom. There's no show, there's no light, there's no mushroom of beauty of different colors. It's just boom. It's not a firework, it's a bomb. So stop shooting off bombs in my neighborhood. And I would have been okay maybe if they'd given us like like an agenda of how long these were going to take. Like, we're going to do 5 booms for the next hour. After that we'll be done. But my dogs and my kids were terrified about these booms, and no matter what I did to rationalize it. So finally, 10:30 or whatever, another boom goes off, and I go walking out and start yelling at buildings, like, come out, people, tell me, you cowards, why are you shooting these off? Why are you torturing people? This is torture. Just putting off a bomb in a neighborhood is torture. It was so other than that, it was a great weekend. Got some surfing, got some fishing in, although I can't catch fish anymore, apparently. We've got a lot to talk about this week. We have some great stories on Voice of San Diego and some other things to go through. So let's kind of get into that. Just me today. We'll have some more guests coming up soon. But let's go through some of the news. So obviously, the most important piece of news still is this pandemic. The virus is back. Let's talk about a couple of indications that we've been watching. We've been particularly interested in hospitalizations. There was a period there in, let's see, about June 24th up through the 29th, where it was really, jumping, and that got to be very concerning. It triggered one of the county's triggers, and it made us all worried that we were headed towards a real catastrophe in the healthcare system. That has since plateaued a little bit, although the CEO of the Hospital Association for San Diego and Imperial Counties reminded me hospitalizations were up again today. That's yesterday, over the 4th, which was also higher than the 3rd. So he's not ready to be optimistic about that trend. But again, going back here, this was the number I was watching. It hadn't been over 400 for several weeks. To see it skyrocket past 400, almost get to 500, was very worrisome. And so we were following that. That's the one I like to watch the most. I know that Dr. Rebecca Fielding Miller, who we've had on this show, she likes to look at deaths as the most reliable. I think hospitalizations are a real indication. I think we get really focused on deaths in this discussion, and obviously those are devastating and important tallies to follow. But there's a lot of bad things that can happen with this virus that don't leave the person dead. The UT did a great story this weekend about a man who'd been in the hospital 58 days. He's younger than me, kids, and he was had a rough time with all kinds of different organ failures and different treatments he had to go through. And that's what also is troubling about this disease. We've been talking about it as a lung problem, and now I think we're learning a lot more about how it attacks the blood, the vascular system, and other areas of the body. And I think it's very concerning. I did want to pull up, though, there is more research coming out that outdoors is solid. Outdoors is a real asset in this fight. In particular, Dr. Francesca Toriani was brought up by the county to talk about how to live right now. And I thought she had a really great perspective on how to live with this threat.
So if you're out on the beach, that's great because there's plenty of air. But remain within your household on the beach and put a mask on when you're not swimming or doing other things, right?
So that's Dr. Francesca Toriani again from UC San Diego Health. You're really providing, this is the official county. So I think that as we go through this, what we're going to see is that as they go through more closures or lockdowns again, I believe that they will continue to endorse outdoor activity or allow outdoor activity in a way they didn't at the beginning of this pandemic. So you saw the county of San Diego did become one of the members of the notorious watch list from Governor Gavin Newsom, and he forced closure of indoor dining, indoor activities at zoos and museums, indoor all these different indoor play experiences, but didn't change the outdoor. If you're a restaurant, you can still serve outdoors. So I think that's a really interesting middle ground with this discussion. There's still an opportunity to do things outdoors, and is powerful. All right, reminder: put your comments and questions in there. I will be glad to, if I can't answer the question, I'll put it into the system so that we can get back to that. Hello, Rachel. Yes, I did get a haircut. I did wear a mask. In fact, the guy I got the haircut from was the last man I've ever shaken hands with, and we didn't shake hands this time. Went back and took care of that. Let's see. Stuart here says, a while back, you guys ran a story featuring a Scripps researcher talking about the particular risk of beaches and surf for virus transmission. Has that been discredited or forgotten about? No, I think her point is still valid. The virus can travel. We just haven't, and nobody across the world has really found many, if any, outbreaks in the outdoors. There was a Hong Kong and Chinese study of 500 different outbreaks, and only one of them could be even closely related to an outdoor activity, and even that was just one transmission. So I think everybody's kind of waiting to see what happens with that research. It's not to say that there's no risk outdoors. I think that there's a real big distinction as well between like walking around on the beach, staying apart from other people, and maybe like crowding together and sitting together for a couple hours at a say a presidential event or something like that. I think is a little different. If you have somebody right behind you who might have it, who's yelling constantly, doing that. I think the New York Times did a really, really great podcast today on the Daily about their pandemic reporter, and he was talking about, he really explained it well, that in your indoors you're talking, and right now like these droplets are kind of creating a haze around me, and so you don't want to be right here. Fortunately, there's an internet between us, but you don't want to be right here and just breathing my haze. And so in the outdoors that can dissipate, and the UV can help. And in the indoors, when you're with somebody right next to them and you're talking, you don't have a mask on or something, and that particularly hit home for me. I have a friend who's a pretty well-known poker player in San Diego. Well-known if you're in any local tournaments or anything like that, or in national. He's a well-known figure. And he got it, and he said he got it from a poker game that maybe he shouldn't have been playing in a private residence. And I think that's the exact type of experience we do not want to be doing right now. You do not want to be inside with anybody, sharing their germs. Our own Mackenzie Elmer chimes in. You can check out that she was the one that did that story, broke that story about Kim Prather at Scripps and her research there. So you can check that out. Pay attention to that. I wanted to play the UC San Diego infectious disease expert. She says she endorsed outdoors. I wonder if as we go through that, outdoors will be a significant thing. Let's see another question. ABC News said it only hits more in the Black and brown community, a white person. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, this is a tough issue. I think that part of the issue is that a lot of people of color have to do have to do a lot of work. They have to do essential jobs, or they don't have the luxury to sort of quarantine as much as other more privileged people do. That's what one of the harsh ironies of this disease is, that it seems obvious it was carried around the world by people of means, by people of wealth, landed in ski resorts in Sun Valley, Idaho, or in Aspen, or these places around the country, and yet in La Jolla, places where it landed. But then it spread in much more underserved communities where people didn't have the luxury to kind of hide out like that. So I think that's an important a reality that we're all going to have to grapple with. The rich people spread it, and poor people are dealing with it. All right, but it affects everybody, and that's what I just like to drive that point home. Like my friend, he's my age. He's gonna probably get out of the hospital in a couple of days, but it was a bad experience, a really bad experience for him. So we can't just think of this in deaths. This isn't just a deaths situation. This is a powerful virus that is apparently getting more transmissible, maybe weaker while it gets more transmissible, but it's still a very brutal experience for the people who have that. So the president must have been tuning into Voice of San Diego at home. He has a take today on schools. Schools must open in the fall. Well, thank you, sir. Oh, God. So I guess we can write off schools opening in the fall. Thanks, Mr. President. Really appreciate you weighing in on this. I don't think anybody has a problem with a statement like, how, sir? How? And he and other people always bring up, well, the kids don't spread it, or the kids don't. That's a good point. There are adults who work with kids, though, and that's part of the issue. There was a really fascinating email that came out. How many of you are in Poway Unified School District? Poway's been really wrestling with this, as with all school districts. So here's my take on the whole situation. The president has punted leadership of the situation to the governors. He refuses to even follow some of the directives or enhance some of the directives of his own government. He seems to vacillate between, this is garbage, hoax, it's not even that deadly, to like, yeah, whatever, wear a mask. I don't know. He's non-existent on the governors have been doing their part, but they punted the school issue to local school districts. They had some very vague guidelines. We've talked about those. One of them that said, remember that said, if you're sick or you've been around somebody who's sick, maybe reconsider coming to school. No, don't go to school. Don't go to school. Be a little bit more clear and direct. But so they punted it to the school districts, or to the counties, and the counties punted it to school districts. And Poway has been one of those just like completely befuddled by this. And it really pulls home this one basic fact. Schools are basically two parts. One part is managing, is the education of kids, right? Making sure that they learn the things that they need to learn, as we've decided, so they can be productive and active citizens in their community. And then the second part of schools, which is almost a bigger part, is just the logistics of keeping them healthy and safe all day long in one place, and the buildings that requires, the practices that requires. And this disease, this virus, has disrupted those logistics to the point where it is breaking them. Their brains are really struggling with how to deal with it. And nowhere is that more apparent than in Poway. They sent out an email, a really extraordinary email, to their parents a few days ago saying, we hear you. There was you might have seen, there was a petition that went out and said, hey, you have two plans in Poway. One is to open all the schools. Everybody can go to school if they want. And then two, provide a really good homeschooling platform for people who don't want to go to school. And the petition from teachers and parents said, no, that's not good. You need to have that third option. Poway said, we're not having a third option that says sort of hybrid, go a couple days a week or something, or go a week on, 2 weeks off, or whatever. And they said, you need to have that option back. So Poway sent a response, and in particular, they wanted to address the mask issue, which I continue to think is an underrated part of what's breaking their all brains. The state said something really vague about wearing masks. the city of San Diego schools, San Diego Unified, for example, said something really vague about wearing masks and whether that would be required. And then Poway came out and said, as it relates to the wearing of masks by students, there is some confusion that PUSD, Poway Unified School District, has made a final decision that is either anti-mask or pro-mask. We are neither. What does that mean? what does that mean? Like, they're like, you're accusing us of taking a stand on masks, and we have not. I mean, I understand the trouble. There's probably parents who are like, don't you dare make my kid wear a mask. Probably the same videos we've all seen on social media of some lady throwing the masks all around or yelling at the Trader Joe's employee or the Target employee for even selling masks. There's probably that contingent. And then on the other side, there's like, how dare you not require masks? I mean, obviously, we're talking about indoor settings around other people. And some people who are vulnerable to the disease, you should wear masks. You should make sure that those droplets, that haze gets contained right here and you don't touch your face. It's a very simple presentation. And so here's Poway saying, like, how dare you accuse us of making a decision on whether we are anti or pro-mask. We follow the county health order. Please note, however, in anticipation, PUSD is working with the county. It's broken their brains. They're all struggling so hard with the logistics of this situation. So the president saying, schools must open. Thank you, sir. Profound leadership. So I guess we'll all see what happens with that. Kristen Gaspar, she's a county board of supervisors. Remember, she's a member of the supervisors. She represents Encinitas over to Escondido, a few places in between, obviously. So she is part of the county, has the biggest role in public health. And she voted for the 13 triggers that the county put up. I can pull those up again. We can see where we're at. The 13 triggers that, if they get triggered, are going to require some cutbacks and some changes. So let's actually pull those triggers up and see where we're at. So this is the trigger dashboard as it currently stands. There's only one that we've triggered, and that's the community outbreaks. They said we should only have 7 outbreaks over a 7-day period. We're at 21, 3 times what they said was our limit there. They said the ICU capacity needs to be, if it gets below 20% availability of ICU beds, they're going to freak out. It's at 31%, so we're still okay there. And this is the one that we were watching last week. It spiked to 19%, increasing hospitalizations back down to 3. I think this number might actually go into the negative territory, which is a good sign. So that's the stuff we're watching there. Again, this is a bad number. We did a story at Voice of San Diego about how to follow what we do know and don't know about those outbreaks. So here's that story. You should check that out at voicesandiego.org. What we know and don't know. The county will not tell us. They tell us that that there was outbreaks at restaurants and at bars, and they tell us that there were some outbreaks at some of these places, but they don't tell us how many. So it could be like a bar, a restaurant, an office. Well, if there was 3 outbreaks, or 10 people got sick at a bar and 1 at an office, well, that's a different thing than if they each had 3 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I wish they would be more forthcoming. They say that people won't provide that information if we release it publicly, like where the restaurants were and stuff like that. I say our job is to push for those records. We're going to keep pushing for those records, and we're going to fight hard for them, because we need to create a manual for how people should live in this COVID world. We're going to be here for a few years, and we need a manual for how to live. And so part of the data that would help us inform that manual is in where these outbreaks are occurring. And you have that information. If you go back to that trigger that we have, one of the things that they're doing is over here with the case investigations. They're trying to get at least 70% or more of the actual cases to be investigated, so they can contact trace and find who's been in contact with with those people so that they can isolate those people. And so they have literally thousands of documents right now that say where people are getting it, how they're getting it, and we need that information. We're going to keep fighting for it. If you want to redact specific addresses and specific names, let's have that negotiation. And if we have to go to court to have it, we're ready. Okay, let's take some of your questions. Any thoughts on flip-flopping of shutdowns? This isn't really a flip-flop. I mean, they said we were going to, things were going like this. They came down, and if they went back up, we were going to have to do other things. Well, they went back up, and so I think what we're in this period, we're in this like interregnum of like trying to figure out like how to live with this thing, and I think that we're getting great signs that you can be outdoors. You can have a lot of things happen outdoors, but you start doing stuff inside, play poker or go to a bar, you're going to get in trouble, and that's what they're deciding on. So I think this is going to be like this for a while. All right. Let's see. But kids love to hug and hold hands, and they don't wash their hands like adults. Yeah. People get sick at schools. They get sick so much. All right. What I was getting at, though, is Kristen Gaspar. So she voted for those triggers that we just showed. She was the one that said, like, we should implement shutdowns, lockdowns, if those triggers are triggered. Those triggers have been triggered, but she released a statement on, I guess it was Thursday, saying, we've made significant changes to the world around us. We've built capacity in the healthcare system. We need to protect the most vulnerable in our population, but we also cannot continue to toggle our economy. Those do not and cannot continue to be mutually exclusive. We can no more turn on our economy and off than we can turn this virus on and off. We need to figure out a way to live with both. That is the new normal. That's fine. Again, that's like the president saying we need to open schools. We need to live with the virus. I agree. How? What? And I think outdoor makes sense. Like, there should be a basic rule. You should do anything you want outside, basically. Don't hang around right next to somebody for a long period of time. Wear a mask when you're around them. But, if you probably shouldn't play poker inside. Those card rooms, I agree. It makes sense that those places, as much as I love playing poker, you probably shouldn't have those open. And crowding into a bar or a restaurant kind of makes sense, especially if you're spreading the virus in those places and it's endangering our ability to get schools open. I mean, I cannot believe that they opened bars and restaurants before they had a viable plan for how they're going to open schools. I mean, come on, like at least understand that as the top priority before you start doing things that are going to make opening schools even harder. So that's my thing on that. We need to figure out a way to live with the virus. Okay, well, you're a leader. Let's lay it out. How do we live with the virus? Does living with the virus mean we just open everything and just deal with its consequence? I think that's what she's saying. I'm not quite sure. All right, next up, I did want to bring your attention to a really interesting story about, it was reassuring for us to talk about vacation rentals. I also wanted to talk about a great story today about why your park might suck, why your park in your neighborhood might not be the greatest park. We have a great investigation on that. So let's actually talk about that one real quick. So our Mackenzie Elmer did a great story. So right now, if you are, the city decided a long time ago that if you build a bunch of homes in the city of San Diego, you should pay a fee. And that fee should fund things like parks and rec centers around your house. So they did that. And so places like Carmel Valley have like wonderful rec centers and pools and parks that are really nice and stuff like that. But then there are other parts of the community where it is not so great. Mackenzie Elmer did a great story about one of those places. She is it's a really good story, but that really very clearly explains how all of it works, how the funding works, and in particular, what the city wants to do about it. So instead of like Carmel Valley and these other places where they're building, collecting those fees, and then spending them locally, the city wants to do a thing where the development impact fees get collected, centralized, and then those fees are used throughout the community. So in places like Sherman Heights, where we talked about, there's a tiny, very badly designed and kept park, and that's just that has its roots in how this system is funded, how these fees are paid. And McKinsey did a really great job on how that works. Here's a list of how that works. So uh, the fees that were paid in various neighborhoods. So you can see like North University, Carmel Valley, Black Mountain Ranch, these giant fees collected that could be used for rec centers and parks. But then you have like a lot of older places where it's built out, where people aren't building, and thus those fees aren't being paid, and thus their infrastructure, their rec centers, their parks are just not as strong. Mid city, the college area, Barrio Logan, Pacific Beach, these more like central city areas that didn't benefit from this massive building boom and the associated fees. It created a vast inequity of service. So I think that oops, what did I think I broke it. Okay, let's go back here. Oh, can you see me or can you see the screen share? You see me or can you see the screen share? Sorry, a little bit of a technical issue. Let's see if I remove that completely and stop the screen share. Well, hopefully you can see me. All right, let's get back to some of your questions. Mello-Roos is different. Mello-Roos is a specific, shoot, not sure how to fix that. Yeah, Mello-Roos is a little different. Mello-Roos is a specific fee paid as a kind of tax for certain areas, and collected and can only be used for those buildings in that area. All right, let's see if I'm gonna see if I can't figure out what to do here. Hold on. I don't know why it got stuck. Sorry. It's stuck. I stopped the screen share. Oh, it's still there. Well, shoot. A little bit of an issue there. It just got stuck. Sorry, guys. Should I start and restart or? I was on a good roll there. Hold on. Let's see. I might start and restart. Should I start and restart? Let me try that. Would you guys stick with me if I